Hi, I'm Jose Torres of Mexican and Puerto Rican descent. I am currently 29. I was diagnosed when I was 18 in college. And long story short, to put my disease journey in a nutshell, when I was diagnosed, it was difficult to get to diagnosis. And I ran through every medication and treatment possible from steroids to biologics. And it ended up being surgery that was the needed treatment for me. So I got the J-pouch surgery done several years ago, and I've been fortunate enough to be in great health ever since then. When I was diagnosed, I was actually an amateur boxer. So the first thought was something happened during a match or a sparring match. So that was like the first inclination. The second one was possibly like, oh, you just have a virus and it'll go away. So yeah, we definitely went through those motions um, of looking at diet and other outside reasons as to why I was having those symptoms. My family kind of didn't know how to react to it, as I didn't know how to react to it. Um, IBD is not really known in the Latino community, so we didn't even know what it was. There was definitely a barrier to diagnosis. Um, the first hospital I was being treated at ran tests for weeks and didn't know what it was until they finally diagnosed me with Crohn's disease. But then through independent research of myself and my mom looked into it, we realized that hospital wasn't actually treating us properly. So we ended up going to another hospital where they properly diagnosed me with ulcerative colitis. Um, so that was definitely a barrier. And then as far as acceptance, that wasn't difficult. It just now we knew what it was. So my family is very small, so we did come together, and the support was there, and I couldn't have asked for better support from my family in that sense. With the medications, though, there was an issue. Uh, I know in my family, at least, we don't like taking medicine unless it's absolutely necessary. And my disease got so bad so fast, I had to go to steroids first. I was on remission for a year, and then nothing would work. So then we had to try biologics. So at every step of increasing medication, there was resistance there because we didn't want to take that step until eventually it got to the point where we had to do the J-pouch surgery because I was literally dying in bed. I dropped to like 100 pounds. They're feeding me through a tube. And yeah, so the journey was rough, but initial acceptance was difficult, but the support was there, and everything ended up working out. We're not too close to the extended family, so it was more of like it got just word went across from family member to family member. And when I was in the hospital going through surgery, recovering, they did come and they did show their support. So that wasn't too much of an obstacle. With regards to my family back in Mexico, I prior to being diagnosed, I would visit once a year or once every other year. After my diagnosis, because we live in very rural Mexico, like it's literally middle of nowhere, um, I took some time off from being there because my GI didn't think it was quite safe enough yet for me to live in those conditions. But once I did eventually go back, my grandmother, who does speak to my family down there regularly, had already told them the story. And I think they didn't quite understand it until they physically saw me come back. And then I was able to kind of explain it to them better, like what my journey was. And since they already had that background from my grandparents, they were more open to it. And with regards to friends, I keep a very small circle to begin with. And I did have some friends come and visit me while I was in the hospital as well. So for the most part, anyone that was close to me, I was pretty comfortable with sharing it, especially with that initial support from my immediate family. That kind of gave me the courage, I guess, to share that with everyone else in my close circle. And everyone who I did explain it to, I can see there was some confusion. They weren't quite sure, especially like my other, Latino friends. They were like, huh? And especially with, Latino diet, some of it is, fried food, meats that usually aren't particularly great for IBD patients. So it was explaining that part as well as with the various unappealing symptoms that go along with it. Kind of finding a way to explain that without, TMI was a bit of a challenge. But overall, again, because I keep a pretty close circle to begin with, it was difficult at first, but it got easier, and everyone in my circle was very accepting and supportive. For me, the most difficult time in my disease journey would probably have to be the point of diagnosis. I feel like being diagnosed at 18, it's very different psychologically from being diagnosed as a younger child. It was my freshman year of college, so it was a lot of questions ran through my head, right? Like when you say you get told by a doctor you have this disease, there is no cure. Um, it's okay. How is my life gonna change? Will I ever be the same? How am I gonna have a normal life? So you go through all these questions, and then that leads to self doubt, almost to a place, of depression for some time until you kind of figure it out. And what got me through that was the support of my family. Like my mother would be there and sleep on a cot on the side of my hospital bed and would not leave. Um, the texts from my friends, the family visits, my doctors who said, "Hey, look, this disease does not have a cure, but there's treatment out there. So let's keep trying until we find the one that works for you, that will give you the most normal life possible." Um, so it was definitely the support of family, friends, and my medical team that helped me get through that initial shock of, okay, my life is never going to be the same, but that doesn't mean my life is over. There's plenty of opportunity left ahead. So my words of encouragement uh, for anyone who has IBD, given my experience and hearing the experience of others, is to know that you're definitely not alone. No matter how dark of a place you may get to, just know that you will find support in family, in close friends, um, through the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, whether it's a support group or taking the step I took in volunteering at Camp Oasis, which is just completely life changing. Even participating in an event, or even just as you get comfortable with it, slowly, feel free to be open to whoever you feel comfortable with being open to. And chances are they know someone, or they know someone who knows someone who has IBD. Um, so just know that you're not alone. There's support out there for you to find. And for me, I'm ironically grateful for this journey. It definitely changed my entire perspective. It changed my personality. It made me view things in such a different way. Um, so there is definitely light there. And again, know that there is treatment, um, and there is a road to living a normal life. I never thought about looking for or looking to connect with another Latino, another minority with IBD. That's just my personality. But the first time I did come across that was when I decided to volunteer at Camp Oasis as a counselor. And that's actually where I met Justin. So even though it wasn't something I looked for, when Justin and I met, it was just an instant connection, and we just clicked, because of that, similar story of having, IBD and being a minority. And it wasn't until I met some younger campers, maybe like one or two of them that were Latino, that actually met another Latino with IBD. So again, it was nothing I looked for, but once I found it, it was nice, and it was definitely a great connection.